Your alternative talk radio contact. The Planet. KGRAradio.com.
With infinite complaisance, people went to and fro of the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design, man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Into the Fray. Just a couple of things before I get to my chat with Michael of Septembryo. If you haven't been on the website lately, there is a new feature available to you there. It is titled the iTF Bookshelf. And these are all books that you've either heard featured on the show, or books that I own myself or want to own. So visit intothefrayradio.com and click on iTF Bookshelf. There you will find all of the FRAY-approved reading. Each and every title within the page is clickable, so you can go and expand your own library. And as always, if you love the show, consider supporting it. Click on Become an Insider, and there are two different options, $4.99 a month or $54 for the entire year. Also, keep the correspondence coming. If you'd like to be on the show, you can email me, Shannon at intothefrayradio.com, or get a hold of me through the website on the contact page, or of course, any of my social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And without further ado, let us cue some of Michael's music to usher him a big welcome into the show.
Exactly.
Well, no, thanks for being patient with me. I just damn forget about emails and things that come in, and I should be better about having a system for that, but I have yet to find a good system for me, and I'm very forgetful. So thanks for being patient.
It is all good. I'm in the same boat. You know, there's lots going on, all the different social media pages and stuff. And, you know, I've been listening to your podcasts for a couple months now too. And I hear you mention a couple times like, it took us a while to connect. So
I do.
I'm like, she's like me. It's all good. So,
if you find that perfect system, let me know, because it happens all the time. No, you've got a lot of stuff that's gone on, huh? Even recently, which of course we'll get into that, but I mean, holy crap. Some of it I was reading or rereading, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this email, because I remember thinking, I don't think I'd want to experience that. No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, because when I talk about it, it sounds scarier than it is for me. And I think it's different for me because, most of my experiences you could, classify as sleep paralysis experience, but I'm never paralyzed. So I think that's part of why it's not as scary for me.
Right.
And so like as a kid, I would sleepwalk and stuff, and so whatever that mechanism in the brain that shuts your body off from acting out its dreams, mine's broken along with other people that sleepwalk.
Yeah.
So anytime I'm I'm seeing something, it's never as scary because I can move. And then there's also this awareness that it's, as real as some of it may look, there's still some kind of awareness that it's separate from reality, or else I might react a little bit more. Like I remember one of the first times seeing it, this started probably like in 2003, maybe. And one of the first things I remember seeing was this kid just walking across my room. And I remember sitting up and just kind of looking at him and realizing, like, looking at the light hit his cheekbones and just how much detail was there, and being really fascinated by it. So obviously I knew that there was something else happening, like, a waking dream or something, but it for the most part, like, this has been happening nightly since then. And it mostly just kind of fascinates me. Although there has been some stuff that's been actually scary in the moment. So there's that too.
There's a couple things I read that I'm sure we're probably, I would imagine, talking about the same thing, or whatever it is you're going to bring up as to for what I'm thinking. Yeah, the old hag, I think, would be the one thing I'm like, no, good on that. But we'll get into that for sure. But it's definitely on my triple starred, like, must talk about list is this recent. Quite recent old hag sighting. But let me do a proper intro for you, and then we'll jump in.
Sure.
So on this edition of Into the Fray, I have on with me Michael, and a lot of you probably know of him if you've listened to other podcasts, because his music, Septembryo, cool name by the way, is featured in other podcasts. And it's mostly is it Paranormal Now or Now Paranormal? Which one is, I get it backwards?
Yeah, Paranormal Now plays it every episode. Plays something from me.
And
so Alan's been good to me.
Yeah, that is very cool. And because I know I've heard it on there before, but then I always get the words backwards. I'm sorry about that. For the name of the podcast there. It's called a Paranormal Electro-Rock Project. So is it just you working on this, or is it in fact a band situation?
It is just me, yeah. And like I've had other members of a band, but it started as a solo project, and I've gone through different members and different lineups over time. And then basically I started Septembryo as, I've been in a few bands over the years, and anytime one kind of, members quit or one falls apart, I was always tired of just starting from scratch. So Septembryo was kind of my dream project that I was going to, no matter what happened with it, I was going to just keep it going. So it was always going to be mine, and it was always going to be just made up of everything I love. And that's why there's so much paranormal elements in the music, is because it's basically all the things I love: music, comic books, paranormal. It's my dream.
Well, the other cool thing is, guys, that he has there's a comic book series out that is based upon what we are going to talk about today, which is all these different paranormal experiences that you've had. Is that under the same name, Septembryo?
That's right. The comic's called Septembryo as well.
Very cool. And where can everybody find that?
So it is available on comiccentral.com, where you can get issues online. Mostly it's in stores across North America. If you have a comic book store near you and it's not there, you can either request it through your store, or you can message me directly at any of my socials, and we'll try to get it into the store for you.
I was looking at some of the images from the comic books, and I'm like, man, I don't who illustrated all of those? Who did all of the artwork?
The artist that I work with, who is also the co-creator of the book, his name is Roberto Duke, and I'm completely just blessed to be working with him, because he's an amazing artist. And he's done commissions for DC and Marvel and Rick and Morty for like their Upper Deck collector series cards. Mm-hmm. And he's been around. He's got a good resume, and his work just speaks for itself. So, and it was actually his idea to create a comic. Although that's kind of a funny story, because he seemed to pick up on something that I was thinking at the time too, because I had this idea for the comic in my head for like months, even though I have no way of drawing it myself. I was just became obsessed with making a comic. And then out of the blue, he messages me. He's like, I want to make a Septembryo comic.
Oh my gosh, that's very strange, isn't it?
It is, but my life is filled with synchronistic experiences like that, so it makes perfect sense. And so, that comic was born. And so it's ultimately a work of fiction, but there is quite a few things in it that I think people will be surprised are based on real experiences. So it's very fun to make.
Now, did you already have much of and obviously, like you said, they're based in true stories, so the storyboard is in your head, but were you already trying to put that on paper somehow to see if maybe someday it would come to fruition with a comic book, and then that's when he stepped in and you were like, okay, let's do this?
No, it was the weirdest thing. Like, it's like I wasn't writing anything down. I just started thinking about making a comic based on out-of-body experiences and shadow people and, all that, paranormal goodness, and just what that world would look like. And so even though in my mind I had no intention of even making a comic, it was just so fun to think about that I couldn't stop thinking about it. And then I started just creating the story just in my head for maybe like 3 months or something, it must have been. And then he came out of nowhere. He's like, I want to make a Septembryo book. And then we sat down, we had the meeting, and he was like, check it out. There's a battle of the bands in space. Septembryo is going to be the best band in the universe. And he described it as like this comedic space opera, right? And I thought it sounded really fun. And I'm like, I'm all for it. He's like, yes, right? And then, we're just kind of sitting there chatting. I'm like, it's the weirdest timing that you come to me now, because I've been obsessing over this other idea for a comic. And he's like, well, tell me about that. And so I kind of laid it all out for him. I had a lot planned. And he's like, okay, I'm going to stop you right there. My idea, forget about that. We're going to do this.
Oh, wow.
And then, so even though my idea was never like, I'm a character in the book, that was never my intention. It was never intended to be a Septembryo book, but because that's what he wanted to do, he wanted to collaborate and, kind of mix worlds between music and comics. My idea about the out-of-body experiences and, shadow people and all that stuff, they merged, and now I'm a character in that. So I think after that happened, it became more obvious that like I should incorporate some of my own experiences into the book. And there's some really weird ones that made it in there.
You must have put some strong intention feelers out there, right? I mean, what are the chances of that guy just being like out of the blue, like, hey, we got to chat about maybe a project? You're like, oh, wow.
Yeah, at the time I didn't quite understand it, but in the years that have passed since, I've definitely became more aware of how law of attraction seems to work, and have just kind of kept an eye on it and seen how it's worked in my life. And so that was definitely the universe kind of bringing something really cool to me.
And
so
how many?
I'm thankful for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And congratulations, of course. That's very cool. Yeah, the
Thank you.
artwork just is stunning, the illustrations in the comic book. How many books are in the series, at least so far?
So I don't know if you're like me or anybody listening is into comic books at all. I really like comic books, but they're really hard to read because, where do you start if you want to start reading Superman? He's at issue 1000 something now. Right. So I like to have a beginning, middle, and end, so I mostly read graphic novels. So the script that I wrote for this book started as a novel, and we split it up into 8 issues. So there will be 8 issues total for this story, and we are on issue 5, and we're working on issue 6 right now. So it's exciting because there's just 3 more to go, and the story will be complete. So anybody who's maybe interested in comics or, has been too intimidated, they can pick up from issue 1 and read to issue 8 and know that they're getting beginning, middle, and end and be satisfied. So, yeah.
So what about then, Michael? I mean, going down the road once these 8 are done and you have more experiences, are you guys talking about another wave of the series coming out maybe someday?
Yeah, definitely. I do have a first draft written for a second novel. I haven't touched it in a long time because even as we put out issues, I'm tweaking the scripts based on his storyboarding, and we kind of go back and forth. And there's times when I'm lettering the book where just based on what he drew, a lot of the humor comes in last minute, and just based on the expressions and the stuff he does. It's hard to predict comedic timing that much, that far in advance. So yeah, the script is constantly being tweaked and evolved. And so even as I'm lettering and even as we're putting it together, it's being changed, and hopefully for the better each time. But yeah, so there is a first draft of the second novel, and if all goes well, and people like the ending, because it can go either way. There's a lot of people that love Game of Thrones. And then it ended poorly. Same with Lost, so hopefully we do our jobs right and people love the ending. And then based on that reaction, if they want more, we'll definitely give it to them.
Did you ever see the sketch of it's the back end of a horse, and that is like season 1. You know where I'm going, right? You've seen this one, where the Game of Thrones, and it's this perfect, beautiful illustration of a horse's rear end, and then as it goes to the front of the horse for the head, it's
like a
season.
horse.
Yes, it just looks like something that I could draw, which is horrible. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how people felt about good old GOT. But I was watching The World's Strongest Man happened to be on, and I caught it by accident, and his first name is Half Thor, which he looks full Thor to me. Haha, I'm just kidding. Terrible. He's the Mountain from Game of Thrones, and
right.
His girlfriend was I don't know what she was doing. She looked like she was like toweling him down, or just, they're in Florida. I'm sure he's sweating his bag off, but she is so freaking tiny next to him. I'm just going, how does that even work? I don't even know. He is so insanely massive. Yes, he is a real person, everybody. Just go. His first name is Half Thor, but all you have to do is Google the Mountain GOT, and he'll pop right up. The dude is a beast, literally.
It's like when someone's like, yeah, I got a like a Rottweiler Chihuahua mix here. And it's like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're going,
what is the kid's going to look like?
Yeah,
Is she gonna live?
logistically, I don't even see how that happened, but okay. Yeah, I'm just like, wow, because you'll see pictures of him standing next to her, even at some of the premieres for GOT.
It's insane.
He looks like he could just like take one hand and just do the hammer, into the top of her head, and she'll just plunk right into the ground, just...
Honestly, for Halloween, they need to dress up as Timon and Pumbaa, because I think that's about the ratio there.
That's exactly what it is. She's very, very thin, beautiful girl. And then, she's just sitting next to this Goliath of a man. But, yeah, she could be like, it could be, here's another Halloween costume you got me thinking now. Sorry, I'm always on tangents. It could be like the Quato situation, from Total Recall. Like she could play the little mini just hanging out like a little papoose on his stomach. That's how much the size difference is. Anyway, okay, I'm sorry.
Or Bruce Banner and Hulk.
The before and after.
Yeah.
That's amazing. He could like strap her to his back, and then they could do the before and after. It's like before, after, before, after. Okay. Yeah. All right. Anybody, everyone's like, God, can we talk about paranormal stuff? Actually, that is quite paranormal. You want to know why? Because it's abnormal. That's all paranormal means, folks. Boom. All right.
Damn.
Yeah. Now I'll get off my soapbox again. I went on that rant with somebody a couple weeks back, but that part got left for the insiders. So actually, the main show didn't even hear that part. So not again. Insiders, sorry. I got off it again. All right. Well, let's jump in here, Michael. Wherever you want to start, and of course, whatever stories you're comfortable sharing,
sure.
Go for it. I'm looking forward to hearing about all this.
Well, it's cool that you mentioned you're like all the paranormal is abnormal, because one of the disclaimers that I kind of wanted to put out there before I told any of the stories is that there's a quote. I should have looked up who said it, but it's one of my favorite quotes. And the quote is basically, there's no such thing as the paranormal. There's just the natural world we understand and the natural world we don't. Mm-hmm. And I don't take that to mean that, all our experiences can be explained by today's current understanding in science, but I take it to mean that one day they could be. And that, the supernatural isn't as separate from all of us as it seems. I do think that the supernatural experiences are just basically human experiences. And doing what I do, I meet a lot of people who it seems like they're just dying to talk to somebody about it. Because almost every person that I had, a conversation longer than, a few minutes tells me something. Right. So I think it's funny because it's kind of the thing that everybody's in the closet about, but it would make sense that, everybody's had something. I think for the most part, we explain things away, or, sometimes they're, as scary as they are, we repress them, or sometimes they're so weird, there's not really a box for them to go in. So if you were to ask me, like maybe 5-10 years ago, like 10 years ago, if I had any paranormal experiences, I would have told you I didn't, because a lot of the experiences that I had, I never thought of them as paranormal, because it's like I wasn't seeing an alien or a UFO, and I didn't see a ghost or, a Bigfoot or something. But I'll tell you one story that at the time I had no box to put it in. But this happened probably when I was like 15. It was me and a bunch of friends. And one of the things we used to do for fun would be dial random numbers and then just improvise and see how long I could keep them on the phone for. And I couldn't plan what I was going to say. It had to be something new every time. And it was just to make my friends laugh and then just see how long that person on the other end was willing to talk to me for.
Right.
So, I'd make up silly things. And so I always had like a backup though. Like if I drew a blank, if I couldn't think of anything to say, I would just quickly ask for a name, and they'd be like, "Oh, you have the wrong number." And I was always trying to make it like a pretty rare name. So this one time, my friends dial the phone, hand me the phone, and I draw a blank. So the name I decided to go with this time is Troy, because in my entire life, even to this day, I've only met 2 Troys. At the time, I only met one, and he was in my grade 2 class, right? So I'm like, okay, I'll ask for Troy. Woman answers. I'm like, "Hi, is Troy there?" She's like, "1 second." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Now what?" Right? Oh. So I'm like, "I know. I'll just start describing the Troy that I know." And then he'll be like, "Oh, you got the wrong Troy." And then he'll hang up. So this Troy comes on the phone. He's like, "Hello?" I'm like, "Hey, Troy, I don't know if you remember me, but this is Mike from like your grade 2 class." And then I say the school, and he's like, "What?" And then he says the teacher's name. He says, "From Mrs. So-and-so's class." And I'm like, and I didn't know what to do with that. And I'm like, yeah, her class, right? And he's like, "That weird, man. What makes you, why are you calling me? What's going on?" And I didn't know what to say. So I level with him. I'm like, "Listen, dude, I was just playing pranks." And I laid out the whole thing. I told him, because I didn't know what else to say. I was on the spot.
Right.
And I'm like, "I literally just thought of your name, and then somehow it's you." He's like, "Dude, that's weird." And then we started talking a little bit, and it turns out he's only a couple blocks away from me.
No way.
So he's like, "We need to meet up." He's like, "Let's go meet me at the 7-Eleven. I'm like, "Okay, I'll do it." And I hang up my phone, and all my friends are just staring at me like, what the hell just happened? And I'm like, that. And I don't go, which is one of the biggest regrets of my life, because if only I had gone, who knows what would have happened or what came of it. But I could not explain what was happening, and I couldn't put it in a box, and it was just the weirdest thing. And I forgot about it for years, and it just kind of popped in my head, one day. And, having learned so much more about synchronicity and the paranormal and how it all works, I'm realizing more and more that, psychic experiences are not just limited to people who are psychic. And it's one of those things that, like, I'm sure, everybody out there can think of multiple times where they've thought of a person out of the blue and then they ended up calling them. Or if they have a best friend that they're constantly finishing each other's sentences. Like, there's something more that, science hasn't been able to pick up or measure yet that exists, that connects us all. And we're just seeing parts of it. We're getting glimpses of how this force in our lives works. And we don't know what that is, but it will manifest in our lives in strange ways. It's kind of like, at one point, electricity was a paranormal force, and we didn't understand it. We attached our myths to it, and then eventually we discovered it. We're able to measure it and then make it work for us. I think it's going to be the same thing when it comes to, psychic abilities or energy or, whatever it is. So that's just one thing that happened to me, and I forgot all about it.
That is, because I saw that in your email, but it was a very quick thing. I wasn't sure about any of the details, and that is extremely shocking. I'm sure that you were kind of going, "Are you freaking kidding me right now?" So you were, in fact, freaked out enough to where you didn't go meet him, or I mean,
yeah. At the time I wasn't as aware of it, so I wasn't like freaking out, but I completely dismissed it. So it's hard to say on a subconscious level what was going on, because like I barely, I forgot about it for so long, and I didn't give it much thought again after. It could have been one of those experiences where it's, I gave it so little attention that I might have forgotten it forever. So I'm not sure what made me remember it again, but at the time it was complete dismissal. I just dismissed it as coincidence, which is funny because I've been interested in the paranormal my whole life.
Yeah.
But even still, that didn't fit in any box that I can make sense out of. So I'm thinking there's lots of people out there that have even weirder experiences. And, even to, people like you and me who are really into the paranormal and know all the different categories, we couldn't tell them what box it fits in because it's its own thing, and I'm sure you found the longer you study the paranormal, the weirder it gets. So, yeah, it's interesting.
Did you tell your friends exactly what had gone on, and did they believe you?
I think they were just as dismissive as I was about it. Because there's that crutch of coincidence. It's easy to explain something away as like, yeah, that's really crazy, but that's a coincidence, and it doesn't mean anything. And the older I get, the less I believe in coincidence. Everything seems to, how they say you can't connect the dots unless you're looking backwards.
Right.
It's like that. It's hard to tell why these things are happening to us, but looking back, you see how they shape you and they change you. So that's why I always wonder, like, what if I did meet up with Troy? And for the way that Troy responded to it, I could see that he was a little bit more aware than I was at the time. So he probably had something for me to learn. That's something I could learn from him. So, yeah. Well,
maybe you could have the same kind of fortuitous meeting, and it'll happen eventually,
Maybe one day Troy will hear me tell the story, and then he'll find me. That'd be the weirdest thing.
I just can't believe you dialed a random number, and then you came up with the name, and it happened to be him. Because you needed that mental picture. That's insane.
Yeah, the thing I'm wondering is, like, did I dial the number, or did somebody else? Because I remember it as my friend dialed the number and handed it to me. Because it might be a little easier to explain if it was that I dialed it, but I never had his number. Like, you don't have phone numbers in grade 2.
No.
So
no.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. So there's a lot of things like that that's kind of happened throughout my life that have more and more showed me that there's more going on behind the scenes.
Well, you brought up the, maybe psychic powers someday coming to the light of day and being more accepted and as something that is real. Howard Stern had, and I think it was the actress Valerie Harper that passed away, I think in the end of August. He had a word with her, and like an actual, not he was talking to her, like he had a word that they had agreed upon between them, because I think she knew she was, not doing well. And she said, well, when I go to the other side, you find a psychic that can tell you this word. And it's they're the only two people on the planet that know
like
this.
Houdini and his wife did
secret
the
word.
thing.
Yep. Yeah. And I don't think Houdini, of course, ever got that answer, did he? Or the word. But yeah, they're trying the Houdini here. So he's putting the challenge out to anybody that thinks they can pull that word out from the other side for Howard Stern. He's like, then I'll believe it's real. But until then, he says it's all bullshit. He's very, very poo-pooing all of that stuff. So.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about because, I mean, there's a whole school of thought that, when it comes to channeling and Ouija boards and stuff like that, that a lot of times, people will say that whoever you're talking to, you gotta, you might not be sure of who it really is.
Yeah.
Some people say it could be spirits pretending to be somebody else just to try to get to you. I'm not sure how I feel about that exactly. I almost feel like, people that have passed on have better things to do. But, yeah, I can't claim to know what's actually happening. It's just so interesting. I think that's one of my favorite things about the paranormal is that it's so satisfying even without the answers, Yeah,
so it's certainly a wonderful hunt. It's very exciting.
Yeah. If we could apply that same enthusiasm to the rest of our lives, where it's like it's not the destination, it's the journey. That's what the paranormal is all about. Of course, we're searching for answers, but the search is so much fun. So it's, that's my favorite part about it is that you can kind of get lost in wonder and not worry about ever solving it because it's almost like, what are your hopes of solving it? So it's that's why I like it so much.
It's extremely addictive. And I mean, Ouija boards, have you used Ouija boards? Have you done any of that kind of stuff?
I haven't, no. Yeah, I haven't done much to like try to reach out or do anything like that. Probably because there's such a negative connotation to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't done that. I've had, like I've met people who have like, claimed to do things, or, they'll be like, oh, I can see spirits and this spirit wants your body. And I'm like, yeah, they all want my body, I bet.
You're like, I've already had that. I don't need to go searching for it. They come to me without the Ouija board.
Yeah, I've taken a very casual and playful approach to it, which, maybe that's another reason why most of my experiences are generally positive, or, at least curious.
Yeah.
Because, as far as sleep paralysis goes, I can't imagine what it's like for most of these people to go through that, because it's terrifying.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. Because like you said, it's the easiest way to classify it is sleep paralysis, but you're not actually paralyzed. So let's get into that a little bit.
Okay, so most of the time, I'm terrible at sleeping. So this probably has a little bit to do with it as well. It takes me hours to fall asleep. So there's a lot of times where I'll start, seeing the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, I won't even realize I'm close to sleep until I see it. And I go, oh, I must be further along than I thought, and then for the most part, it's pretty basic things. Like I'll see, people or animals or shapes, objects, random things. But here's one thing that I only thought about in the last maybe 2 years. I had this kind of epiphany because I started writing all these experiences down, at least the ones that really stood out to me. Because, I mean, with it happening every night, it's really hard to remember it all the time. It's just, there's always something. So I began writing down all the experiences that I've had, including stuff outside sleep paralysis. And so I tried to remember, I'm like, well, this didn't always happen to me. It started happening around the time when I lived in this apartment downtown in Calgary. And so I was trying to think, what was the first thing I saw? And then I remembered, and it's so weird because it's so telling. I was just lying there with my eyes closed, and then suddenly I just saw this gigantic eye open up, and it scared the shit out of me. Like, I sat up, like I was breathing like frantically. I'd never experienced anything like it. It was just this gigantic eye. And it was like my eyes were closed, but it was beyond imagination. It was like physically seeing it underneath my eyelids because they were closed, which was insane. So, and I've had, I have a few friends that are into that, and they're like, so that's pretty symbolic of your third eye opening. Like, that's the first thing you see, and then suddenly there's this wave of nonstop visuals coming at you.
Right.
And then I was thinking about, well, what could have triggered it at the time? And it's so funny that at the time I wasn't connecting the dots because it seems really obvious, but I didn't think about this till years later. Around that time, I started reading books about astral projection and how to induce out-of-body experiences, and I started trying out some of the techniques. And I did the third eye exercise, where you focus on the third eye. You do this visualization technique. I forget exactly what it was, but it starts, a feeling in your third eye. It's like a tiny vibration. And then you focus on that, you get it to increase and then spread throughout your body, and you kind of spread it up and down. And so I was doing that, and I got to a point that was really, really intense. And my whole body felt like it was just shaking, and my heart was pounding, and it was so intense that it actually felt like a physical feeling. And it was actually really terrifying. So I had to just stop. And I haven't really tried to do it since. And so in my mind at the time, it was like, okay, well, I failed. And it did nothing. But then, looking back and then realizing, right at the same time those visions started happening, it was like, maybe I did something. Maybe I opened something up. So that's the best sense that I could make out of it. At the same time, I also kind of just look at these experiences, like they're dreams, because to me, it's, I'm not going to say like these aren't dream experiences, because they are, but I'm also, thinking that we don't completely understand what dreams are. We don't completely understand what imagination is or thoughts. There's this new idea that thoughts are things. What if they are? And as far as what people are seeing during sleep paralysis experiences, I'm thinking for the most part, we might be seeing thought forms. And so I'll tell you about the one experience that I sent you the photo of, where I did that digital painting of it.
Yes. Before you go on, am I allowed to use that? Is that okay to use? Maybe even
for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, and for reference, my artist drew it up too, because it's one of the experiences that makes it into the comic. There's actually two experiences kind of pushed into one.
Cool.
But yeah, so one of the only times I've ever been truly scared was, so I'm lying down in my bed, and my eyes are closed, and then I just open them up, and then there's this thing floating above me. And it's, between me and the ceiling, it's got to be maybe like 3 feet away, and it's huge. It's just big. Like, it's a humanoid thing. Like, I made that digital painting of it that's pretty close, but it differs in a few ways. So I'll try to describe it as best as I can. So it's definitely like a shadow figure, and its head kind of melts into its shoulders. Like, there's no neck or, like a suggestion of a jaw or anything like that. It's just basically head going into the shoulders, almost in like it's very Mothman like in a way, with these like really round red eyes. And then the rest of it's kind of like a really dark shadow. And it's I couldn't see all of it because that's how close and big it was. So some of the details as far as limbs go and things, I'm not too sure about that. But I remember seeing just really wide shoulders. Like, it must have been, I don't know, like maybe 5 feet across for shoulder width.
Oh my goodness!
And just massive, this thing. And it was so simple in its features that it was almost cartoonish in a way. But it was definitely like shadow-like and very dark, and just got the worst feeling from it. It was like, if you could imagine the feeling of having like a panther over top of you in the jungle, it felt like that. It definitely felt like, I am done and this thing's going to eat me, kind of thing. And it's all happened in a split second. And I swear to God, like, I screamed like a little girl. And my girlfriend wakes up and she's like, what the hell? And, like, she knows about these things, but she's not into the paranormal or anything like that, because she knows it scares her. So I don't tell her a lot of the things that I see. In fact, she will not listen to this episode.
Probably better she doesn't, since she wants to stay, like, sleep and not have any nightmares because of what you said, right?
That's right. So, but yeah, like, so I woke up from that and she was like, what's wrong? And I was just like, I just had a nightmare. I'm sorry.
Even though you could describe it to a T to her, you're like, bad dream. Sorry, honey.
Yeah, I think she might have. I think she knows about that experience now, because it made it into the book and all that. But
does she ever like open the comic book and go, Mike, really? Did you? Is this real thing that you saw, or what?
She's like, what is real, what is not?
Yeah.
No, don't tell me.
Yeah, she's like, never mind. I don't want to know.
Never mind.
It's a smart girl.
Yeah. Yeah, she's funny. I remember one time, it was like early in a relationship, we were talking broad daylight, probably like 3 p.m. And I'm like, so, you believe in reincarnation? And she's like, I don't want to talk about that. That's scary. I'm like, how is that scary? Well, you die and you come back. That's the opposite. So,
it's only bad if you come back as like a dung beetle or something,
Yeah, that might be scary.
Of course, you wouldn't know the difference because you're just a damn dung beetle, and you don't really probably remember your past lives being a human being and having a lot more to do than roll around massive balls of shit. So,
but I get the feeling I've been hauling shit all my life. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's what the bad people go. They get turned into dung beetles.
That's right. So that experience made it into the comic, and it's one of the connecting threads to this story. And another experience that
by the way, wait till you guys see this picture. I'll use it for the main episode image now that I have Mike's A-OK, and I'm super happy that I do. I was going to ask you about that, but wait till you see this. It's, like I said, it's the main episode image, but if you guys are listening to this on a podcatcher, obviously it's the ITF image on the podcatcher. Just go to the website, intothefrayradio.com, and you will see it there. It's terrifying, horrifying. I wouldn't want to see that. No.
And yet I just saw it for like maybe a total of 2 seconds. Just
it's
boom,
it's all
and
it
then
takes.
gone, and there it is.
Burned into your memory. Yep, exactly. You're screwed. That ain't going away. So it had those red eyes, huh? Did it ever do anything like? I mean, you only saw it for a couple seconds, but did it blink? Did it have any pupils in it? Anything like that?
No, yeah, it was so simple. It was just like big holes for eyes, but they were red kind of thing. And that was and the rest of it was just this deep dark shadow. Because that's the weird thing about this: your room's basically pitch black at night, and then you see these things, and they're so dark that you can pick them out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's fun.
Good times. Yikes. Do you think? I mean, what? I always ask people this that have these one-offs because it's the only time you saw that guy, right? The monster with no neck. So why? What's up with that? What's up with the one-offs? Why haven't you seen him again?
So I had an idea because for example, my newest album is a concept album. It's called Nightmares, and I'm actually recording the follow-up to it called Daydreams, and it's a concept album. It's all about law of attraction, and Daydreams. What I'm doing right now is it's all about the positive experiences and kind of the thing that I think most people think about when they think about law of attraction, because of The Secret, I want to manifest a car or a lover or whatever, right?
Right.
So Daydreams is all about me manifesting a lot of really cool things and learning how to use it and all the positive things that came with that. But Nightmares is about all the negative things I manifested before when I was kind of just learning why my life was the way it was. Because I went through, like most people do, I went through a really low period and, got really sad and things weren't going right. And what I did notice is that the things I saw during, this whole sleep paralysis thing, changed based on what I was feeling. So one of the one-offs that I did see, and it's very unique, is I remember, so there was this one day I was playing this video game, and I was spending way too much time on it, and I was getting frustrated with it. And, I don't know, I'm sure many people relate to playing a game and just, swearing at the screen and just getting angry and, kind of feeling like, crap, like I'm failing or whatever, right? Spent way too much time playing the game. So that's kind of the vibe I'm putting out, is this anger and the feeling of almost being taunted, by the game itself.
Yeah.
So that night, I go to, or I'm not asleep yet, but then this thing comes in my room, and I can't explain exactly why, because it didn't really do anything. It just came in, and it kind of had no features at all. I feel like, so it was just like a complete shadow person, but I think I remember like a smile, like I can't remember if I saw a smile and nothing else, but I just got the feeling that it was like smiling or laughing at me. And so the weirdest reaction was that I got up and I started swearing at it and said, "Get the hell out of here." And then it had this reaction or this feeling from it that was very satisfied that it got what it wanted from me, and then left, like it got something out of me. So my theory about those one-offs is, I mean, if you subscribe to the idea of law of attraction, a lot of people say, they're going to make law of attraction work for them and they're going to use it. But the truth is, it's the default. Everybody's attracting all the time. Everything in their experience is a manifestation. So it's just a matter of like, whatever you're feeling right now, that's what you're attracting. And so I think that's why those one-off things come. And then as I started learning more about it and trying to be more aware of how I'm feeling and make myself feel better, in the moment, the experiences started changing. And I started getting more positive experiences. And, so contrast that to like way later when I'm in kind of like the height of my flow, I guess you could call it. There's this one experience where everything I saw before was all shadowy or in the dark, but there was one experience where I saw a woman in a floral dress in my room, and it was almost like she was like glowing in a way, but I don't know, it's hard to describe because I could see color and I could see detail and I could see her perfectly, but the room's dark. So it's like she had her own kind of light source, and it was a very positive feeling coming from her, and I'd never experienced anything like that before. So I definitely saw a direct connection between what I was going through in my life and what I was seeing and what the experience is like. And so it got me to think about most people's sleep paralysis experiences and why they're so terrifying. If what we're seeing, if we just go with the idea that what we're seeing is kind of a manifestation of thought forms or whatever, then it would make sense that, if you're lying there and you wake up and you can't move, the first thing you're feeling is fear. And then if you see somebody come into your room, how much more terrified are you going to be?
Right.
So I think if, we can call it a dream experience, we can call it, even just dark entities coming that are drawn to that, because you attract what you put out. It would make sense that as you're feeling it, as you're experiencing it, you're creating the experience too. So it's just this feedback loop of just terrifying fear. And so to me, that with that idea in mind, it makes sense that these experiences that people are having are so, so scary, and that mine have typically been pretty neutral or positive for the most part. Because, mine don't start the same way. I can move anytime. I can sit up and be curious. I can afford that luxury. So I'm actually really lucky in that way. So I've been able to just observe it and record it and just think, oh, that's kind of neat. And then just kind of forget about it, be really casual about it.
And then you can actually go back to sleep, or does it bother you a little bit enough to where it kind of, you're like, oh, I'm up for the night?
Well, for those few times that were scary or really negative, and they're very few, like if you're thinking every night for the past, 15 years, it's been mostly good. I can just go to sleep.
This is every night?
Yeah, mainly. Yeah.
Have you ever tried to see if you can capture anything on video or any EVPs or anything like that? Or is that stepping a little bit over the line with your girlfriend, right? She's like, this is getting a little too much for me.
I just imagine setting up like a tape recorder and her being like, what the fuck is that?
She's like, wait a minute, we have not talked about this yet.
Just record it and just start whispering things in my sleep, start singing some jazz.
Yeah. She's like, oh, this is new.
Sounds like a dead jazz singer is in a room. I've never thought about that.
She's like, if you wanted to sleep in the bed by yourself, you could have just asked. I'll go on the couch. God damn it.
No, I've never thought about doing that. And again, I guess because I just take such a casual approach to it. Like, these things happen, and I don't let them influence my decisions in life or affect my life or anything. But for the most part, I think about them. I think about, I just kind of wonder about it. Like what makes me wonder about it that, after all these years of it happening, of me kind of entertaining the notion that they're more than just dreams, or when they start to connect into real life, or they, this is a very positive experience. That's one of the more unique ones. When we were pregnant with our oldest son, she was like 9 months pregnant. This was like towards the end. And, I look up in the air and I see this kid. This kid's like, maybe like 2, 3. And somehow I knew that it was our son. And so it was one of the only times where I wanted to wake her up and be like, I swear to God, I see our son, but she wasn't waking up. So the next morning, I wait, and I'm very because in the moment I'm excited, so I wanted to wake her up. But the next morning I'm kind of hesitant. I'm like, do I tell her what I saw? Because she got scared of reincarnation, right? So the next morning I'm like, I think I saw our son. And she's like, okay, tell me about that.
Mm-mm.
So I'm like, okay. So she's like, what did he look like? And I'm like, well, he had, longer hair, and it was lighter, but the roots were darker. He had olive skin and your big brown eyes. And I'm just describing him, right? And she's like, that's really neat, And then, of course, she goes into labor, a little while later. And he's born. He comes out, jet black hair, blue eyes, red skin, just doesn't look anything like it. And so, we don't think much of it. And then, as anybody who's ever had a baby knows that, like, those first 2 years, they change so much. So one day I'm looking at him, and he's probably about 2 years old. And it just hits me that I'm looking at him. He looks exactly like what I saw that one night. It was like, what? It was so weird. And we always, a lot of us, we always think about an afterlife, but, there's not much out there about a before life. I come from the thought that, like, energy can't be created nor destroyed, only transformed. So that's kind of like why I believe in reincarnation. It's just, we always are, and we're having different experiences. So if there's an afterlife, there's a before life too. And so things like that make me think, did I really see my son before he was born?
Did you bring it up to your lady kind of thing? Like, hey, do you remember me talking about?
Did, yeah.
Okay, what'd she say?
Yeah, she just kind of was like, wow, and like, she's like, that's weird.
And I'm sure it's
insane.
not, she didn't see him and you did, so it's obviously more powerful for you,
right.
But still very cool. Did you guys happen to know the gender before your son was born?
Yes, we did know it was a boy, so there is that. But it is, so though I will say that it's a little harder to predict of what our child would look like, because she's more, she's like Spanish and all that, and I'm total ginger, right? So the thing we thought was the,
one hair.
Yeah, he'd come out dark, right? Dominant genes and all that. So, which he did at first. He had jet black hair, and then, like, a lot of babies' eyes are blue when they first come out, so there's that too. And his skin's all red because he's new, So, like, being able to predict with such accuracy how he might look is a little weird, So it's certain things like that make me wonder. Like, for example, there's another experience that made it into the comic. That in the comic, it's issue 3, where you get to meet that shadow monster. There's another experience that we kind of combined with that, and it's when I was living downtown in that same building. And it's a really ghetto building. It's downtown. It's every floor in the building has, like, different wallpaper and different carpet.
Yeah.
It's not maintained very well.
Yeah.
And I ended up just getting used to the sound of the fire alarm, because it would just go off so often. You just wouldn't react to it. It was one of those. But one night, I'm having a dream that I'm on another floor in the building, and I can tell because I'm looking at the carpet, and I'm like, oh, this is a different floor, and then there's smoke everywhere, and I'm feeling like, oh damn, there's a fire here somewhere in one of the rooms. And then I wake up to to the fire alarm buzzing, and I don't immediately put it together. I'm just like, oh crap, okay, I'll get ready for work, and I get dressed. I take my time. The stupid fire alarm's going off. And I go downstairs, and I walk towards the train station, but I see fire trucks pull up outside my building, and I'm like, oh, weird. It was actually a real fire this time, and then I get on the train, and it's like, it takes me so long for it to dawn on me, but I'm sitting there, and finally it's like, ding! I'm like, what the fuck? And then I just, I come back, and I find out where the fire was, and it was on another floor, like, above us, and it was such a weird experience. Man, that was early on too, so it didn't quite click right away, but it was like, does that dream actually represent something that happened, in some sense,
Did the carpet match? Would you know if that was actually the carpet that would be on that floor?
I didn't go up and check it out, like, but yeah, it was just one of those weird things, where it kind of suggests that, maybe there's more to dreams.
Yeah.
Maybe that was because they say some dreams are out of body memories, and with me trying those things at the time, maybe it was like, it put me in a position to maybe remember those experiences a little bit better,
So yeah, because that's when you were in fact doing the exercises for the third eye and all of that, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Now, what about something like, people will take dimethyltryptamine, DMT, right? And they say that's an easy way, just a thing just pops open. And I mean, people describe horrifying experiences while on DMT and also some positive ones. Some people say they're in that state for 10 minutes, but it feels like 6 hours, which is really effing bad if, you're like
totally
a big old pile of shit being rattled around by a dung beetle. We'll go back to the old dung beetle. I mean, they describe horrifying things, and they would never go through that again. Is that something that you would try? And do you think that that is a way of, skipping the training and the meditation? And not that I'm disparaging that. I'm just saying, do you think that DMT is basically doing the same thing, just a very fast track way to get there?
Well, my understanding is that all living things produce DMT, and that the human body produces a significant amount of DMT before its death too. So, there are some out there that would use that to kind of explain it away. But I can't help but wonder if DMT is instrumental in the physical human brain being able to record, non-physical experiences in a way. Whatever non-physical part of us that exists within us exists kind of outside of us as well. And so, you could call it our soul or whatever, might be having all these experiences outside of our physical lives, but, our human brain isn't really picking up on it unless we're in an altered state, like even as simple as just falling asleep. Maybe that's one of the reasons why people are seeing things in the in-between dream and wake state, is because, whatever filter we have is kind of, let go, and DMT is instrumental in that. I don't know. I don't consider it cheating to do that. I'm kind of subscribing to the school of thought that all perception is a form of reality, because our reality is just what we can perceive anyways. So, in my mind, taking hallucinogenics or, DMT or whatever is, just a way to experience different realities. And for the record, I've never done any kind of drug myself. I've never even smoked weed even. But I've always had an interest in things like DMT, and, maybe one day I will try it. But for the meantime, I seem to be having my own experiences nightly. So
yeah, you don't really need them.
I don't feel the need to do it.
Yeah.
But it's not something that I would ever rule out.
Have you seen the movie Banshee Chapter?
I haven't.
You'd like that. It's all about DMT. It's got some kind of hokey parts, but it stars the only person that I knew out of there is Buffalo Bill is in that movie.
Okay.
And he plays an author who's heavy into this stuff, and he can find quote unquote pure sources and this and that. Anyhow, it utilizes. I should cut some of that and your music into this episode, because it's just, they use a Russian number station, uses a heavy music box, but it's very creepy. And then so after they take this DMT, they hear the music box, and then you quickly realize that once they hear that, they're screwed. But yeah, it doesn't turn out so good for them. But yeah, check that movie out. It used to be on Netflix. People have heard me bring that movie up before, but now it's not. I'm hoping it's kind of like one of the Nacho Libre situations where they put it on and they take it back off and put it back on. But I haven't seen it back on there. again. But yeah,
Yeah.
Banshee chapter. It's very, very good.
Kind of
movie.
like the
I like
McRib. They'll make you miss it before they give it back.
Oh God, they're just dangling the carrots. You're like, it was just on there. Like sometimes you just have those movies you just want to put on, even in the background. They just make you happy. God damn it, and then they take them away, because it's just not that time anymore where I don't want to go turn the PlayStation on and have to find an actual DVD. How dare you? Like I have the DVD.
Touch a physical object?
Yeah, I'm like, what the hell? What year is this? God damn it! Put it back on Netflix. No,
Next
but
you're gonna make me rewind it? Come on.
Yeah. What is this? I got to go through the menu on the PlayStation. Give me a freaking break. But oh, another thing is, you brought up thought forms, or tulpas. And so I don't know if you've run into this episode yet, and God only knows what number it was. I have no freaking clue. But there was one time that we being myself, Sam, and Ryan were talking about tulpas, and it was probably me because I always come up with dumb shit. I was like, we should come up with an ITF tulpa. Somebody needs to draw it out, which meant Sam because he can draw amazing. At the time, I was like, that means you, Sam. We're going to come up with the tulpa. The listeners can throw in, every detail of this thing, and we're going to put it out there all over the social media and on the website, and then everyone's going to focus on this, and we're going to make our own ITF tulpa. The next day, I got inundated. People were going, that is such a bad idea. What the hell are you doing? I was like, okay, I won't do it. You're right.
Amazing.
Everybody's right. Yeah, very few people went, that's a great freaking idea, Shannon. Woohoo! No, I didn't.
And that's so weird that you mentioned that, because you said it was an early episode with you and Ryan and all.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I listened to that episode just last night where
Really?
you brought up that idea.
No way.
And it's an old episode.
It's a really old episode. And you just listened to that one?
Yeah, last night. That's weird. And I was like, oh yeah, I gotta bring up tulpas.
Dude, your synchronicities. There we go. When you brought up the thought form. Yeah, that's cool. All right, Michael, we will be right back after a word from our sponsor. Okay, guys, I'm back to talk to you about Blue Chew. It's the little blue pill that can increase your performance and confidence in bed. So, if you're ready to spice things up a bit, check this out. Blue Chew brings you the first chewable with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis. You can take them anytime, day or night, even on a full stomach. And, since they're chewable, they work up to twice as fast as a pill. So, you can be ready whenever an opportunity arises. If you could benefit from extra function and more confidence where it counts, Blue Chew is the fast and easy way to enhance your performance. And guys, since I know you liked this line last time, don't just talk a good game, execute one. Threw in a little extra there for you, see? Blue Chew is prescribed online and shipped straight to your door in a discreet package. So, no in-person doctor's visits, no waiting in the pharmacy, and best of all, no more awkwardness. They're made in the USA, and since Blue Chew prepares and ships direct, they're cheaper than a pharmacy. Right now, I've got a special deal for my listeners. Visit BlueChew.com and get your first shipment free when you use my special promo code FRAY. You just pay $5 for shipping. Again, that's BLUE Chew.com, promo code FRAY to try it free. Blue Chew is the better, cheaper, faster choice. And I thank them for sponsoring Into the Fray. And now, back to Michael.
Let's talk about tulpas, and then I'll tell you a good synchronicity story too. So as far as, people talk about the Hat Man a lot. I've never seen the Hat Man myself.
Well, not yet, but now tonight you will because you brought him up. So let me know if you see him, okay?
Well, see, I guess it might. So in my mind, it will depend on like what kind of vibration I'm putting out there. But so with the idea of like shadow people being thought forms or tulpas, the one idea that I'm thinking is that, because they start off such terrifying experiences, we're attracting terrifying things when we see them. And for the Hat Man, I can't help but wonder. So, like for the Hat Man and other figures that many people report seeing, it makes me think that, they are thought forms that people, like the mass consciousness of, humans are creating, and that, like, kind of like Jungian archetypes, they represent parts of the human experience that we all relate to. So for me, with the Hat Man, the way he looks and everything, he kind of just reminds me of like that, 1950s, like, like government agent kind of thing, Men in Black. Like, I swear there's got to be a Men in Black connection. I think, and even in the times that we're living in, more and more people, like, it used to be a fringe thing to, make up, to read about conspiracy theories of the government and really dark things. But when you go through all the stuff that's just declassified and it's factual, there's some terrifying things taking place by people in power. So the one thought that I had is that the Hat Man might represent our growing, not only distaste for authority, but fear of it. That the people that run the planet do not have our best interests at heart and actually are out there to hurt us. And I can't help but wonder if maybe that's why Hat Man exists, and that's why multiple people are seeing him.
That is very interesting thought, Mike.
Yeah, I'd have to talk to, like, the individual people themselves, because, is that maybe the common thread? Do all these people have a big distrust of authority? I don't know, but it's, something I wonder about.
Do you think then we're going to get a Donald Trump Shadow Man at some point? Because he polarizes so many, Yeah, they see his hair like flapping and he's so orange. Like, there was a man in my room with horrible hair and he was very orange. He's glowing.
I saw it. They're calling him the Toupee Man.
The most terrifying shadow figure of all. Oh, God.
Orange shadow.
No, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be an ass, and I'm always joking around. But no, that's a really cool thought.
Either, just naturally.
Exactly. A high five on that. We're on the same page. No, that's a really cool thought. That's never crossed my mind, but that definitely could be something that's going on with the Hat Man.
So the one thing I will say about that idea is, given my own experiences and that idea, maybe it might serve as a comfort for anybody that's kind of going through it. Because I've had people message me about their experiences and they're like, I'm scared, I don't know what to do. And then where do they actually go for advice? There's no legit authority that can tell them anything. So, they come to me and then I do my best talking them through it. And the thing I usually say is, I'm pretty sure that they're just thought forms. I don't think there's actually evil spirits out there. I think evil is a man-made creation, and that there's these thought forms that have existed, since the beginning of consciousness that we've created, and that anytime somebody thinks about something that aligns with the concept of evil or something threatening, the thought form gets added to. But the thought form is completely dependent on our attention to it to even exist in our experience. So which means that you are more powerful than anything you could kind of run into in the middle of the night or come into your bedroom. So with that thought in mind, if you can try to find a way to direct your thoughts elsewhere, I know would be very hard to do in the middle of it, that could be a solution to sleep better at night. I don't know. But of course, I think most of the work might have to be done during the day. If you can, for any reason, direct your thoughts to more positive things purposely more and more often in your life, I think your whole life will transform anyways. But that could be a thing that also helps with sleep paralysis experiences. So I don't know if there's anyone listening that has really bad experiences and doesn't know what else to do, try focusing, just experiment, see what happens. Make lists of things you're grateful for. Think about things that you love to do. Keep a journal of all your favorite things to do. Like, just write a page about going to the movies and all the things you like about that. Sounds really simple, but in my own experience, it's actually done wonders for me. So why not test it out? See if it works. Now, I hope it does.
What about if, and you probably have run into this, what if somebody comes to you and they go, I see the same exact figure, several times a week or even several times a month would be enough to probably scare the crap out of anybody. Is that a situation where you think things like, the power of maybe even prayer or positive thoughts out loud or telling it to go away, this is my space,
totally.
Or saging or something like that?
Yeah. I think I think all these things are different tools that we use as excuses to focus ourselves in a better way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I'm almost like, it's like the placebo effect. Not going to say that none of these things aren't legit. I'm just saying what makes things work, from like, popping vitamins to, whatever, is really has more to do with how we feel about it than the thing itself. Whatever feels good to you. If, like there's people that say, as soon as I said the Lord's name out loud, they went away. Well, that's because for them, that's such a powerful, thing. Whereas like if you were to tell somebody who, doesn't hold the same religious beliefs to try the same thing, they don't have the same feeling behind it. They don't have the same faith behind it. It's not going to work for them. So, find the thing that does work. What do you feel, best about? What do you feel most powerful doing?
I think
So
for me, it would be
smudging,
just flipping at the bird or something. That would kind of probably be more along my lines of faith for something like that. Just full bore, just in, you're not.
Yeah, just
you're
like
not,
you.
Yeah,
like you're not.
You're
Yeah,
not welcome here.
exactly.
No
And that
words
definitely
needed.
works.
Sign language is good.
Do you know what this means? You know what this finger means in my world, bitch?
Do you want me to explain this to you? That's a good point. Would a shadow person know what the middle finger means? I didn't think about that. See?
Yeah, I feel like he would, because
You think so?
I mean, a shadow person knows what's going to scare you because you're kind of creating the projection. It's based all on what's going on internally. So yeah, give him the finger. He'll know.
It'd
what
probably
that
just
means.
flip you right back off. And you're like, well, that didn't work.
He's like, oh man, he's got fingers too.
Yeah,
Ew, they're so long.
damn it. Just prolonging the experience even more, You're just like, well, may as well just have a full-on conversation with this freak standing here. All right. Of course, he's talking about me, but,
But it's such an interesting point, like what works for you, because I'm remembering when I was a kid, when you're a kid and you have to go in like the basement where it's scary and the furnace is all, like whenever I had to do that as a kid, the one thing that I would do to just feel safer is I would sing. Like there's monsters in the basement, but if I'm singing, they can't get me.
right.
In my head, it was more like, if I'm singing, they won't know that I'm scared, but they'll also think I'm older because I'm a better singer than most kids, or whatever, right? Whatever it is that makes
Whatever
you feel
works,
better.
though, right?
You saying that made me remember that. That's kind of a funny thing.
There's always those great scenes from movies and things that just make you think, I don't want to go in the basement. I don't want to leave my foot hanging over the side of the bed at night. You gotta be really tucked in under the blankets, because the blankets are, that's a safe place somehow. But yeah,
the blankets
totally
have a force field.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. The Jedi Knight with the blanket.
I can't explain the science. I just know it works, right?
Yeah, that's all that matters
blankets
when
are
those bastards
protective.
come in your room.
That's right. Don't make me get the teddy bear.
Yeah,
Or the sage.
Yeah,
Or the crucifix.
or
One of those
all
will
of
work.
it. All teddy
is
bear
this is my
holding the sage,
Build-A-Bear.
and
The sage.
it's the anti-tulpa Build-A-Bear.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Oh.
I'm going to start making the Septembryo merch. Come get your anti-tulpa Build-A-Bear. It's the only thing that keeps you safe from shadow demons.
It's
Get fried up.
amazing. You said a cross and the sage is just going to hold one in each hand, and, there you go.
And then people
That's
take it
amazing.
home, and it's cute, and they're like, do I have to burn this for it to work? Damn,
Yeah.
I never thought about that.
They're like,
Sorry, buddy. You get one shot.
Yeah, exactly. Bear lives for only one night. Our business plan has already gone up in smoke, Mike.
Damn it.
God damn it. Guess we'll have to
Would've
keep
been
doing
good.
what we're doing. I'll keep doing this, and you keep pumping out the music and the badass comic books. But one of these days, we'll
Or-
do the Build-A-Bear Exorcist style.
Or will it just translate to repeat sales? You got to keep buying them.
That's true. If people are really having a lot of experiences like yourself, then they'll need a lot of beers.
We're going to be billionaires in no time.
Dude, high five.
And if they can make dolls pee themselves, I'm sure they can squirt holy water too. So it's all good.
Boom. We can have it come right out of his little paw. Just, I don't know what the,
Just like
what
a-
the hell
like a
that
wet slinger.
noise effect was. I'm sorry. That was the holy water coming out of the bear's hand, everybody. Did you like that? Yeah. All right, so before I let you go, though, I know that you've got one more down here that, no, two more. Let's go this one. I'm going to save the you know what for last.
Okay.
The Egyptian gods. Are you okay to talk
geez.
about that one?
Yeah, that one's quite. I don't know how much time we have left because that's quite an involved one. I can try to like give you like the very basic version of it.
Sure.
Okay, so this one's very different in that it wasn't like me where I'm usually seeing things physically in the room. This and it wasn't a dream. I'm completely awake, but it only happened when my eyes were closed. So I can only call it like a vision. But around the time when I started doing all these practices that I've found to be transformational for me, that literally changed my life, like meditation and affirmations and, you know, all things like that. I'm in bed and I close my eyes and I see this vision that's kind of like almost like an animated presentation. Like it had the look of like Chinese calligraphy. Like there was this animation of like with brushstrokes and everything. And it was this torso that was, you could see was getting stronger and like lightning bolts were striking it. And it was just getting like layers of muscle were being added to it with each strike. Like, so you could see this torso of this being was getting stronger and stronger. And as I look up to the head, I notice that it has like a dog head, like a black dog's head. And it was quite a powerful thing to see. And so I open my eyes and of course it stops and I close it and it keeps going. So it was only when my eyes were closed. And then eventually I sit up in bed and I'm just kind of like, what was that? Right? Because it was like, it was not the dreaming in the traditional sense. And it was not anything that I was used to seeing or experiencing. So then I lie back down and I close my eyes and suddenly it keeps going. And it's this time now I'm traveling up the outside of the skyscraper and seeing all these windows fly by, and then it stops and I see the number 51. And so I'm like, okay. So I'm writing this down. Number 51, I write down on a notepad and I go to sleep. And then the next day I make a post on my Instagram in the morning and I find a picture of like a dog-headed man. And I post that, I talk about the experience, and then I kind of, I leave the post alone. I don't really look at it for a while. Mm-hmm. And I start doing research on dog-headed men as far as like symbology goes, because, there's all these dream symbols that happen. I wanted to look into the historical significance of what a dog-headed man was. And it's so interesting because listening to your show, I've heard multiple stories about, the dog man, but I've never heard anything before it. So that's actually the reason why I discovered your show, was looking that up. And I found your show. It was like the dog man on Temple Road was the first episode I heard.
That was a good one to have as an inception.
Oh, it was a great episode. It's still one of my favorites. So I started looking into the history of dog-headed men and all that, and I find out that Christopher Columbus apparently reported coming across a race of dog-headed men somewhere. And I think I might get this wrong, but I think it was Saint Christopher, who was a Baptist, originally was always depicted as a dog-headed man, and then at some point they changed it. But like at one point in the church's history, it was just accepted that Saint Christopher was a dog-headed man, and he's the patron saint of lost souls. And so as I'm reading up more and more things, and I'm looking into biblical history and all this stuff, there's this recurring theme of crossing bodies of water and helping people who are lost souls and stuff, and like baptism and rebirth, like Christopher Columbus crossing the ocean, finding these dog men, and Saint Christopher, being a Baptist and like baptizing with water, and like he's a patron saint of lost souls, so he would help people find their way and baptize them. And then I come back to my Instagram post and people are like, it looks like you got a visit from Anubis. And surprisingly, you think I would know a little bit more about Egyptian mythology, but I didn't, at the time. I still don't really know much. And it was also an odd thing because when I say dog-headed man, the first thing I think most people would think of is Egyptian gods. And it's one of the things my reaction was, that's the first thing I should have thought of, was Egyptian gods, because everybody's seen that image. So I start looking into Anubis. It turns out Anubis is like the god of like the underworld who would like carry souls in like a boat across a body of water into the next life. And so again, there was that theme of like crossing a body of water and lost souls and rebirth. In the case of Anubis, it was reincarnation. And the whole, what baptism is supposed to represent is a new birth, you know, like being born again into the light of God or whatever. So these recurring themes keep happening. And I'm like, that's weird. And then I remembered, well, since I'm looking into, you know, some biblical sources too, I remember that Hebrew is a numerical language, meaning all the letters equal a certain number. And when you have a certain word in Hebrew, the sum of all the letters equal one number. And so I did a quick search to find, you know, significant words in Hebrew that added to the number 51. And guess what the top one was? It was baptism. And when I looked at what was happening in my life at that time, it definitely felt like I was beginning a new life. Like everything changed. You know, I mentioned before with my Nightmares album, that's all based on the dark stuff and coming out of some really, really hard times. And then I started going into some really positive things. And it really did feel like I was being transformed. My life was being transformed. And then that's when that vision happened. And so it was one of those things like, you know, it's not a prophetic dream. And I'm sure there's a million people that could hear that story and just think I'm a loon, but it did have personal significance for me. And so I think maybe sometimes the meaning behind our dreams gets us to just maybe stop a little bit and kind of dissect our lives a little bit further so that we don't, you know, the significance of what's happening to us at the time isn't lost. Because a lot of times we just go through the motions and we forget to kind of slow down and really take the value of what's happening. And so what that vision caused me to do is really recognize how powerful a change I was going through. And I definitely didn't forget it. And then the next night, I have another vision. And now I've never had, you know, what I'm describing as a vision before or since. You know, it's always been either I'm dreaming or it's the sleep paralysis condition where I'm looking into the room and there's things there or whatever. Again, wide awake, closing my eyes, trying to sleep. And then this time I see, it's not like an animated presentation. I'm seeing, it's almost like I'm physically somewhere else. And I see what looked like a person with an owl head and wearing like some kind of weird, I don't know how to describe it, like a head thing. But then, you know, I wake up and it's just staring at me. It's such a powerful feeling. Like it was like being in the presence of a living thing. Like it's really hard to describe, just closing my eyes and feeling like I'm somewhere else entirely, looking at a living thing. Like this thing was real. You know, and it was like this owl-faced person. And so when I woke up, you know, when I went to sleep and I woke up the next day, you know, I was like, I'm going to dip into Egyptian mythology again. I find, you know, the god Horus, who has like a falcon type face, which, you know, could definitely be mistaken because I'm looking at it like straight on. Could definitely be mistaken for like an owl type face. And so that was just such an interesting thing for that to happen. I haven't quite dived deep into the whole Horus mythology yet, but yeah.
I mean, did you
stuff.
feel like those were, you know, like you were being validated in a way, like it was a high five from the universe, you know, like, hey, you're doing a good job, you're in the right place, you're doing good stuff?
Yeah, so it's funny because there's a character in the comic named Linda, and she's based on a real psychic who I've known for about 15 years. And so even though I got my own general feeling from the vision that it was a very positive thing, like it might sound creepy in some ways, but it felt very good and exciting. I went to her after I had done all my research, and I was just curious what she would have to say about it. And her thing was, she's like, you are now vibrating at a higher state, that you are getting the attention of higher beings in the universe. So
wow.
So that was interesting to say. And then she kind of reaffirmed the whole transformational aspect of it. And So yeah, I don't know. Like maybe Egyptian gods are the same type of archetypes. They're human creations, or maybe there's something more. Maybe they represent, um, you know, a different type of being that that people come in contact with at different times. I have no idea. But it's always fun to wonder about.
Have you heard people talk about when you finally, I don't know if it's connected to the third eye or, like the pineal gland that will pop or something, like there's an actual physical pop they can feel and hear, and then they are more open to experiences like this, and then they have things like astral travel that they can do. They can go further if they were trying to do it before, where they couldn't go as far, and now they're just, they're where they need to be. I mean, do you feel like you said, it started in that old apartment building downtown? I mean, is that what you feel like you did? Like you basically did the popping of the pineal gland, and now you're just open to all of these things?
Right. Yeah. Like I can't describe, the physical feeling of popping. Like I don't remember that. And then it's funny because again, while it was happening, I didn't connect the dots. It was just kind of like, oh, random dreams, whatever.
Right.
And then things started to connect the dots as they went on. But it really did feel like it just happened overnight. Like something just, popped. When the very first thing I saw being that gigantic eye that opened up, everything changed.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, I didn't realize then how much things would change. But even now I get the feeling because, I'm not trying to do the out of body experiences. Mostly I'm just trying to sleep, but there's a part of me that goes, I can go so much further. And like, the more I get into meditation and I have, experiences with that. And, I, every once in a while, I'll say to myself, I should really see how far this goes, and give it a shot, because life has been very interesting up until now anyways. Who knows what can happen next?
Yeah, you certainly sound like you're a big time lightning rod, like a receiver for this stuff. And that's why I brought up the DMT, because that's what people say is what happens, is the fast track to becoming this, you basically, you don't open a window, you open a roof for everything to come in. But it certainly seems like you've got that going on damn near nightly. So, you don't really need to take that route. Whereas I think other people might be, whether, like you said, they're a little bit more negative about things, or they're just more closed off. Whatever you did, or whether it was intentional or not, or if it was some kind of a thought that you were putting out there, like you just needed to do it at that time, and now look at all these things that have gone on for you, including seeing your son, which is such a cool story. Right.
Yeah. And I don't know, when I look at the primary motivation behind all of it, it's just curiosity and excitement and enthusiasm. And I think if you're kind of going after anything with those feelings, you're going to have really good experiences.
Yeah.
I imagine that our time is wrapping up.
Yeah, I want to hear the what story from July of this year. So if we could get that one in there before we go.
Yeah. Okay. So this one's a very brief one too. But yeah, it happened just in July, and it's kind of extra scary to tell it. It wasn't scary for me at the time because I'm so used to these things happening now. But I wake up and I think my girlfriend had got out of bed. This is why she can't listen to this. She's gonna freak out. But She got up out of bed and went to the bathroom. And then as she went into the bathroom, I see this old woman come out of the closet.
Oh shit!
And it's typical old hag. Like, she's got this scraggliest hair, just dirty looking, old, decrepit, hunched over. She's got this creepy smile on her face. Like, she looks like, like just someone who's just out of it kind of thing. And so she does this thing where she just comes out of the closet. She's got the smile on her face and her wrists are all limp, and she turns, and she doesn't really acknowledge me, but she's got this kind of like look about her that she's just really mischievous and like kind of like amused by something. You know, like she's really into something. Something's going on in her head, and it's you know, she's creepy as hell. Then as my girlfriend comes back into bed, she lies down. I still see her, and she turns and goes back in the closet, like making her rounds.
No.
And I want to look into it because I've heard some old hag stories, but I wonder how many people would just. I was just the one thing that kind of stood out to me was how small she was.
How small was she?
I'm
how
actually
tall?
in my room right now. I'm looking.
You're gonna go check the closet.
Yeah, like I'm right in front of the closet right now where her head came. She had to be like 4 feet tall.
Oh, for some reason that's more bothersome when they're
Why-
just
why
not
is
the
that
right size. Yeah, I don't know why. That's just I don't know. Okay, what was she
Listen.
wearing?
Yeah, probably just like a scraggly, like moo
Like
type thing, you know, like you know, hospital gown. I don't know. Like
Everyone's yelling at me. What else would an old hag wear, Shannon? God damn it!
Oh, well, aren't you glad I didn't say she wasn't wearing a goddamn thing? You know?
Hey, I've had that story before on the show, so
Yeah. So I'm glad she had something on.
oh yeah, lucky you.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing about stuff like this. It's bad enough she comes out of the closet, okay? Bad enough. You see, she goes goddamn back in. What?
You don't live there. Here's your eviction
You don't
notice.
belong there.
My middle finger.
But you know what I mean? Like, yeah, here's the middle finger, you old hag. But the thing is, it's like, it's obviously not from this realm. She could probably have flown through the roof or out the window or walked down the hallway. I don't know what would have been worse. But, you know, for her to just turn and, go back into the closet. Oh, yeah, you were right. That was pretty damn bad. Now, obviously, your girlfriend didn't see this. I'm trying to picture how your room is set up. So, I mean, the bed is here, and then
the bed is against the back wall, and so if you're lying down on it and you were to sit up in the bed, to your right is the door leading to the hallway to the bathroom, and then further up to your right is the closet. So it's like there is one point in time where I saw both my girlfriend and the old hag in like just within inches from each other,
right next to. Oh my good God! So obviously she does not see these things because she would have seen it.
She doesn't know anything about it. I would never tell her. But I hope she doesn't find out.
I hope she's not going to hear this because.
But
did the woman look at your girlfriend because she walked right by?
No,
I mean,
she didn't acknowledge anybody.
That's good.
She was just kind of like she was like an old lady, just completely senile, just tripping balls, you know, just doing her thing.
Just doing weird shit in your closet.
Laughing to herself about something.
Whatever she's doing in your closet.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And so you would think that would scare me, but it was just kind of like, okay.
That didn't scare you?
You know, there that is. That didn't.
Oh, for God's sake.
It sounds so much creepier than it is. And
I don't know, Mike. I don't know. I don't know, buddy.
I've heard other people describe stories and kind of put it in a good way, where it's like, while it's happening, it's not as scary as like the retelling of it, because you know that's when you have time to think about how messed up it is, and when it's in the moment, you're kind of more just. It's so weird that you're kind of just like taking it in.
Right.
But at this point, I'm also so used to it. And I also have the opinion that, whatever these things are, we as people are more powerful. So it's not, I never feel threatened, besides that one time when I saw that shadow monster.
So is that
was the only time I ever felt that.
So then is that shadow monster the only thing that you wouldn't be okay seeing again? Like you're really like, I'm good on that. For the one-off.
I'm curious.
So you would want to see
that sighting was years and years ago,
right?
When everything was still kind of new, and it was the most menacing thing I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious. I don't know if I ever will see it again, and if my best guess, just based on how law of attraction seems to work, is because in my head. I don't think I would react the same to it. That's why I won't see it again.
Right.
Because it doesn't want that reaction. It wants the fear reaction, or that's the vibration that it aligns with,
And forgive this question, but if I don't ask it, I will get correspondence because I didn't. Did you check the closet the next day to see if anything was out of place or weird or anything at all?
I did not. I'm looking in my closet right now, though, and it's mostly filled with my girlfriend's clothes, so everything's normal.
I mean, all you have to do is go put The Conjuring on, when they're playing the damn clap game, and be like, "Oh, honey, it's the weirdest thing that happened, No, I'm just kidding. Don't tell her. I don't know. No, that's on the no list for me. I gotta be honest with you. I mean, like you said, at least she had something covering her little tiny 4-foot body.
Yeah, at least she was dressed, so that's good.
That is good. I'm happy for you.
I have one more short.
Yeah, let's do it up.
To tell you that's just kind of fun if you want to just end it on a positive note.
Are you doing that for me or for you? Because you don't want to put the intention out there that everything is scary, creepy, because Shannon keeps saying how bad it is.
No, well, maybe for anyone listening to the episode at night, it might be good to end on a positive
true.
note. But
don't worry, kiddies, it won't come for you.
You sounded like the new Pennywise. Don't worry, George.
Oh, that sounded like him. Spot on. Oh, Jesus. The basement scene I was brought up was, in fact, when he goes down into the basement and he's got to go get something, and then, it's just flooded and Pennywise is just floating in the damn water. No big deal.
Oh, yeah. I really enjoy those movies, by the way.
I do, too. Have you seen Chapter 2 yet?
I have. I didn't expect to laugh as much as I did.
Oh, it was good,
Bill Hader is the man. He's so good.
I can't wait to see it. I have yet to go, so I need to do that before it's not in the theater anymore.
Okay, so my last story. It's a short, quick one. It's fun. But the reason why I want to tell it is because, I mentioned before that I do think supernatural experiences are just universal human experiences. I think everyone has them. And I think that there are certain experiences, like when it comes to law of attraction and synchronicity, those seem to be the experiences that bridge the gap between normal everyday life and things that are really far out there that people don't like to talk about. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, people are more accepting about talking about synchronicity or manifestation, even though it's got to, there's a stigma behind saying I saw a ghost or I saw a UFO, even still. But when it comes to those things, more and more people are experiencing it, and they seem more open about talking about it. So I'll just put that out there because I think anybody can have these experiences. But I'll tell you, I have a ton of synchronistic experiences, with repeating numbers, 1111 and mm-hmm. all sorts of things. For anybody who's seen 1111 or any repeating number, I actually have a song called 1111. That's track 11 out of 11 tracks on my self-titled album. It's 11 minutes and 11 seconds long, and it took 11 people to make it. And it's awesome. It's basically like a big retro techno sounding song. And what I did is I interviewed a bunch of people about their experiences with synchronicity and even supernatural experiences. And so those bits of interview are just kind of spliced in through there. And it was the song that I thought everyone would hate, and I was just doing it for me, but everybody seems to really like it. So if you've been having synchronistic experiences, go check that song out. You'll probably like it.
Very
but I'll tell you, my funnest synchronistic experience was I was listening to a mix of a song I was working on called Sleep versus Dream. And it was like the earliest Septembryo release that there was. And so there was all that was happening. Septembryo was just finally becoming something tangible. So it was a big turning point in my life then too. So I'm in the car, we're driving downtown, and I'm listening to the song. Again, it's called Sleep versus Dream. And as we're driving, there's like this big limo, like this stretched limo thing that cuts in front of us, and its license plate says Dream 9. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. And it was like, I think it had something to do with like the company name of the limo, like Dream Limos, who knows? But it said Dream 9, right? And then not 2 minutes later, because I'm still listening to this song, I had a big bus cuts in front of us, and it's like one of those like hippie buses that was like you would see in like Across the Universe or Woodstock or something.
Yeah.
And the license plate says Sleeps 9.
What?
And so at first I'm like, oh yeah, like you can fit 9 hippies on there. That's cool. They can there's like 9 beds. And then it's like, what?
Smells great in there.
Sleeps 9
God.
and Dream 9 while listening to the song Sleep versus Dream. And like, it's such a weird moment, and it just happened, and it doesn't mean anything to anyone else out there except for me. But it was such a moment that really suggested, like, keep doing it. You're on the right path, you know. Like even the numbers 9 being the same on both plates, like,
yeah, that's pretty damn strange. And I would say again, that is a huge high five from the universe to you.
Yeah,
that is so
cool.
So
if you have things like that happen, definitely like keep yourself open to it. Get excited. Allow yourself to be excited about it. Don't dismiss those things, because chances are, if you're open to it and you're accepting that they're real events, they're not just coincidences, you're going to have a lot more of them. That's what I think.
Well, I definitely want to put the intention out there that I don't want the tiny little 4-foot tall old hag walking out of my closet. So I'm just going to put that intention out there. Okay, there it is.
Just put out like Jason Momoa. Just have a Jason Momoa tulpa.
That is so strange that you just said that. Justice League is on downstairs, and I was a little late coming upstairs to get set up because it was just amazing. So that was very odd that you just said that. So there you go again, doing it, Mike. There you go. Yep, Jason Momoa.
You're already manifesting him into your life. He's coming.
I mean, it's better than that freaking old hag. No, thanks. Keep that girl. She can stay in your closet,
Aquaman
okay?
will take care of her.
She lives with you. All right.
Like, she's just been in the ocean so long, she's shriveled. Don't worry about her.
I'll rehydrate her right away. Just needs a little bit of H2O.
Put out positive thoughts and drink a lot of water.
I like that.
That's
Jason Momoa. I like that. All right, Mike. Well, please let everybody know where to find, of course, you personally on any of your social media sites, and Septembryo, your rock project, and the comic books. Again, that website that you mentioned earlier.
So Septembryo, I'm everywhere on all social media. It's to spell it, it's Septembryo. So just think September and embryo. I mainly live on Instagram, so if you want to get a hold of me or just like chat with me, I meet a lot of people through there, so find me there. But I'm also Facebook and Twitter and everywhere else. And you can find the book online at comiccentral.com. You can get your digital issue that way. You can also get a preview of it at septembryo.com/comic. And again, the book is in stores across North America. If it's not at your favorite comic book store, send me a message or request it through your store, and we can probably get it in for you. And the music is everywhere where you listen to music and stream: iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify. Yeah, once you search Septembryo, you'll find me.
They better know how to spell Septembryo. It rolls off the tongue. I love that word. I love it. It's a very unique name. So
thank you.
I knew you'd be fun to talk to. Somehow I just knew it, and it was very fun. And I just appreciate you reaching out and being willing to come on and talk about these experiences with me.
Well, thank you. I knew you'd be fun to talk to because you were fun to listen to for the last couple months. So I'm glad I discovered your show, and thank you for having me on it.
You're a damn nerdy ass kook, and I think that it'll be okay to talk to you. Yeah.
My man.
You're like, Shannon's a freak. She'll be okay to tell these things too. Yeah. Well, Mike, again, thank you so much. And I mean, we'll be in touch. I hope that if you start to see some things again and we start to collect more stories, then you'll come back on with me.
Oh, for sure. That'd be really fun.
Thank you. All right, Mike. Well, have a good night up there.
You too. Thank you again.
Well, I'm so-and-so. I was given this name by my parents. I've been to such and such a college. I've done these things in my profession. I produce a little firecracker. Buddha says, forget it. That's not true. That's some story. That's all gone. That's all past. I want to see the real you are now. Well, nobody knows who that is. Because we don't know ourselves except through listening to our echoes and consulting our memories. But then there's a real you, and that again leads us back to this question. Who are you? That is the real you. We shall see how they play with this exam by the koans to get you to come out of your shell and find out who you really are. Well, we don't believe literally in reincarnation. That after your funeral, you will suddenly become somebody different, living somewhere else. They will say reincarnation means this, that if you sitting here now are really convinced that you're the same person who walked in at the door half an hour ago, you're being reincarnated. If you are liberated, you'll understand that you're not. The past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist. There is only the present. That's the only real you that there is. The Zen master Dogen put it in this way. He said, spring does not become the summer. First there is summer, and then there is spring. When you settle down in the train to read your newspaper and so on, you are not the same person who a little while ago left the platform. If you think you are linking your moments up in a chain. And this is what binds you to the wheel of birth and death. But when you know that every moment in which you are is the only moment, this comes into Zen. A master will say to somebody, get up and walk across the room. And he comes back and he says, where are your footprints? They've gone. So where are you? Who are you? When we are asked who we are, we usually give a kind of recitation of a history.